The shooting is all but over. No Americans have been killed or wounded, but the enemy sure made its presence felt in the Afghan capital today. The U.S. Embassy in Kabul, perhaps the most heavily fortified compound in the country, came under a day-long attack as a small unit of Taliban insurgents rained down grenades and machine gun fire from a nearby tower. The military headquarters of NATO was also in range and under fire. Mandy Clark has been covering the battle.
Afghan forces wildly sprayed bullets at the building where Taliban fighters were holed up.
Hey, you got muzzle flags from that brown construction building!
The Afghan counterattack was joined by U.S. forces and other troops returning fire from NATO military headquarters. These were the sights and sounds of combat today.
RPG, get down!
The Taliban assault on the capital began at 1:15 in the afternoon, with insurgents storming a 14-story building, still under construction, that had a commanding view over the U.S. Embassy, NATO military headquarters, and the headquarters of Afghan intelligence. There was no security guarding the site. An Afghan official said at least 4 militants were armed with rocket-propelled grenades, assault rifles, and suicide vests.
There's just been a huge explosion, and we've been pushed back to this checkpoint. Although the first siege is not over yet, there are reports of new attacks. 2 suicide bombers have struck separate police facilities in other parts of the city. The Taliban are claiming it's all part of today's coordinated attacks.
It was 2 months ago that the U.S. turned over the security of the capital to the Afghan forces. Today, the Afghans led the counterattack. They killed this would-be suicide bomber, who was wearing 15 pounds of explosives. Rockets slammed into the U.S. Embassy compound. Diplomatic personnel took shelter in bunkers as sirens wailed. 4 Afghan civilians were injured in the attack, but no Americans were harmed. The real goal of this type of complex attack appears to be to destroy the public's confidence in security, even in the capital city. Violence in Afghanistan has spiked. Last year was the deadliest for U.S. troops and Afghan civilians since the fall of the Taliban 10 years ago. And this year is on track to be the same.
Mandy, I wonder, with U.S. forces drawing down now, does that mean that Kabul is going to be less safe?
Well, that's certainly the perception that the Taliban want people to believe. Now that the fighting is dying down, it will become a battle of perceptions. You can expect the Afghan government and NATO to be bragging about how well the Afghan forces did in the fight today. The Taliban has already claimed victory.
Mandy, thank you very much.